Okay, unrelated, before I click the button. No, seriously. You know what? I'll click the button. I'm clicking the button.
This is in vivo. This is ADHD in vivo.
I am wise, I am strong. I am loved, I am here.
What's great. This is the episode.
So I was watching our video while I was editing, and I want to apologize because it was so frustrating to watch myself jump from topic to topic to topic. And then I saw I could tell that you were in the middle of a sentence and I interrupted you and I started talking about some random crap. Oh my God. It was like surreal, editing, because it's always reminding me that I'm like, oh, you didn't get that joke, or you laughed like too late, you know? So it's just
I
embarrassing.
hope you're not being too critical because it is a different experience when you're watching or hearing yourself back, because
Yeah.
we're in our head. We're just interacting with the world. We don't see, we don't usually interact with ourselves.
Right.
So what you're seeing maybe for the first time as you're watching it and editing is
What everyone's used to already. Oh God.
yeah, and it's not even like in a bad way of this is also the reasons why we love who you are, right? So it's not oh my gosh, that's not things that come up in my mind or I think of. It's because we built a relationship that feels good. So I have a relationship with you that's very different from the relationship you have with you. So the way you're kind of seeing yourself for the first time, you're coming at it with a very different view than what I have when I'm speaking with you.
Do you have a similar experience when you're watching? I know this is not technically related, because I know that you say that you don't know if you have ADHD and you say you don't. So,
even though you're like, you do. I don't know if
I don't know if you do. The thing is, I don't know your everyday, okay, maybe I do think you do a little bit, but no, I do, but I don't think it's if you do have it, because I don't know. It could be a bunch of other stuff. You're a therapist, you know, whatever. It could be a bunch of other stuff, but I genuinely don't know. But the things that I see, I think to myself, if she does have it, she doesn't have it bad, which makes me happy
to impair
for
my
you.
functioning.
Yeah.
That's kind of like one of the criteria. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever symptom, one of the things that they teach you is for it to be a disorder, it has to impair your functioning in either some major area of your life. So like educational or work or relationships or stuff like that. So I definitely do have some traits, but I don't know if it because everybody has traits and
Could be
everything's kind
some
of a spectrum.
executive dysfunction now and then, but
Yeah, that is for sure a definite executive dysfunction.
it happens.
That's why I'm just like, whatever, I quit. I'm just gonna play it by ear. That's because I'm just tired of thinking.
Hello and welcome to I Am Here, a podcast with two cousins where we share the healing, share the love, share the stories. I don't remember exactly how we say that.
We're sharing stuff.
And I'm Gabriela, or Gabi.
I'm Amarilis, or
yeah. Yeah. And today our topic is productivity systems and ADHD.
Oh, that sounds so clinical. I work as a counselor. For those of you who may not know, I work as a counselor, but this is not a counseling or therapy podcast.
No.
And I want to say I didn't bring this topic to the forefront. So don't blame me for it being clinical. That was Gabriela's I want to talk about productivity systems and ADHD.
I wasn't trying to make it sound official.
The conversation went like this. She goes, I like talking about productivity and things that help me be productive. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah. This is not listen, this is not therapy. Do not take this as a therapy session. I promise you that Amarilis will say things that she would never say to her clients on here. So don't.
Wow. How you know what I'd be saying to my clients?
Actually, I don't know. It's possible that you could be roasting them, and I'm not sure.
I do roast my clients sometimes.
I wish I had I don't know if I'm sensitive enough for that. I feel like I want no, you know what? Productivity and system. We have okay, for nobody knows this, but we have a new structure for the podcast and we're trying it out to see if it works. So we have a timer and see if it's gonna help. I don't know if it's gonna help, but we're gonna try it.
We're trying the productivity systems right now in this moment live.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
because even though, okay, you haven't been diagnosed with ADHD.
I've been okay, listen, this is what happened. I went for anxiety and I talked to this psychiatrist and she just listened to me talk for a long time and then she asked me all these other separate questions and at the end of it she goes, "Okay, so you're here for your okay, so anxiety." And I say, "Yeah, yeah." And blah blah blah. And then she goes, "Do you want something for your ADHD?" So it's not officially diagnosed. Every single counselor I've ever had has just been like, you should heavily consider going and talking to someone about your ADHD. I mean, and they always like try to like make it very like we it could be helpful. I can't diagnose you. They always do that because they can't. But then they're always like, but you should really check it out because
How annoying is that?
it's
So
it's
you know you
interesting.
got ADHD. They just be just they don't just want to put it on a piece of paper and say, I diagnosed you
Because
with that.
there's like a whole system, right? Like you have to like get diagnosed like officially and take this test or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, people could diagnose you. The counselor can diagnose you. But
Ah.
there's standardized testing to confirm. I want to take the test just for fun. But I've heard that if you want to take the test and you're looking forward to the test, you probably don't have ADHD.
I was told that like it's the most infuriating thing if you do have ADHD.
That's why it's
Yeah,
like that's why that statement of, because if you have ADHD, you already know that testing is a struggle.
yeah,
And like um so you're
yeah.
just like, but I'm just like, ooh, a puzzle, I want to figure it out. Like, I want to see how I do.
That's so interesting because like I remember when someone was describing it to me at first, like they didn't tell me what it was exactly. They just said, "Oh, you play with blocks and stuff." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds interesting and fun." But then when they told me the intricacies of it, like you have to remember this thing and then you have to do it again exactly the way and then I
And
just
then
was
there's
like, "Nope."
time, then yeah.
I was like,
I went to
"Absolutely not."
I went to before I studied to become a counselor, I went to study to become a psychologist. Um and I didn't finish, obviously I'm not a psychologist, but it was really cool because like the first couple semesters when I was there and studying, I got my hands on the standardized testing for like IQs and like
Oh,
all
that's
this
cool.
stuff. Yeah, for like ADHD and all these things. So I got like the little puzzle pieces and I got to administer a lot of the tests to practice.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
so fun. I thought it was fun.
Then
And I'm
maybe
like,
you don't have ADHD.
oh, what's the standard deviation? Okay, does this mean like you're in like
You said standard deviation and I'm so serious. You gave me a physical reaction in my
I
stomach.
saw the eyes roll all the way back.
I hate statistics. That has nothing to do with ADHD. I couldn't. I was like,
Oh man, I thought it was so fun. I thought I statistics was fun. And then like figuring out what you do, like, and the test results and like the time and the way people would think, and
right,
like measuring then what you said versus what like the standard is, and then seeing, okay, this means you're above average, you're like in the
wow,
like, and then even seeing the different categories of, like, we were talking about executive dysfunction earlier, but like there's different categories within the test of like, oh no, like in these areas you do well, like you do very well with language and processing language, but when it comes to spatial awareness you have difficulties there. So it's like you
right,
could see where people with ADHD are not all the same, like this is where the spectrum is.
right.
You may have difficulty processing one area but not this other area, like this, in this area you rock, and like there's no
Yeah.
reason to have any interventions there.
That's interesting. That's so interesting because I think about like the concept of like time blindness to some people versus other people with ADHD. Like like, I think about, for example, I think about Alecha. I'm gonna talk about,
I was thinking about her and my dad. Because Poppy was never diagnosed. But talking to Alex, I'm like, I'm pretty sure Poppy had ADHD and was never diagnosed. That's why he could like scores. They always talked about how he was quote unquote lazy, and he was just like not applied in school. Like that was
oh,
always the stories
oh
about
my God,
Poppy.
that's so annoying.
But
I hate
like he
hearing
would
that.
always give the teachers so much trouble, but all the teachers loved him.
Yep.
But he like never did any of the work. And he took an IQ test once, and he scored so great, and he scored so high, so everybody knew he just wasn't trying. And
Oh
like
my
those were the stories
gosh.
growing up, and that's just like the concept was like, oh, I always knew Bobby was just smart, but just like he didn't care about school is the concept. And
Wow.
now I'm like, ah,
Maybe he was trying. Yeah, it's possible he was trying.
he was rocking in one area of the category and not in the other.
That's so crazy. That's so weird how like it affects different areas of for some people, because I think about, like I said, Alecha, and I think about how with time Alecha's like very very like good with time, but
Right.
she obsesses over it sometimes. So she'll be like, I need to be here at this time, so therefore I need to leave at this time, and I'm going to get there at this time and be there and with this much to spare. And then that's how she deals with it. Whereas like I don't know, like I have a problem sometimes. Now I'm way better, but before it was so bad. And it still affects me like now, where like I will be sitting down and being like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take a break before I continue to do this task." And I go to take a break and I think to myself, it's been like 15 minutes. My dad walks through the door and he gets here at 3, and I'm like, why is he through the door? I check my watch and it's been an hour, and I'm like, I have been making a coffee for an hour. There's no possible way. And then I look around
Mm.
me, and that's a completely different thing. I look around me and the cabinets are open, and like there's
And you're
like
like, who did that? Who left all the
it's
cabinets?
it feels like you're blind. It feels
Mhm.
like you are blind. Like, and then I turn around. It feels like I blacked out or something, because it's literally like, I'm like, what? How did all of this get here? And I know I did it because it's
I
the stuff
love
I was
I
doing.
love watching your TikTok videos where you kind of just are like talking about ADHD and you don't even talk about it. You're just like, oh, day in the life, and it's just like, oh, where'd my mug go? Why is there 3 mugs now?
It's interesting. So like, I don't know, like especially when it comes to like getting stuff done, it's just like I don't know how people do. Like I mean, I know how they do it because I do it too. But like it's just wild to
Takes
me
you a
that
lot more effort, it sounds like, and not like a lot more effort, but intentional. Like I have to have the system because I think of
yes.
the example that you gave with Lecha, like the almost um like hyperfixation on time to make
Right.
sure um it's crazy because I'm the opposite. I'm like, time, whatever. We just made that thing up. And I say that all the time. I
Yeah.
don't like time is man-made. Ah, mm, mm.
I mean it
Uh
is.
yeah. So I'm like, whatever. No caveman was like, excuse me, Jack, you're 15 minutes late. Like, no, like they don't care. It's just like we're
Jack.
gonna get this.
His name is Jack. I'm sorry. But
Jack the
yeah.
caveman. But it's like whatever, right? But I understand we work in systems. Somebody pointed out, yeah, but we live in a civilized place, blah blah
Right.
blah. We
It's
have
so
fiction
dependent.
systems,
It's so
blah blah
annoying.
blah. And it's just like, bro, we created clocks to help us, not to serve them. So chill
Right.
out. Like 5, 10, 15 minutes is not going to
Wow.
change the trajectory of my life. Relax. Now, if I intentionally don't meet with you for like 2 hours, that's inconsiderate. But if I'm 15
Yeah.
minutes late, chill out. Like you are a slave to your watch that is supposed to be a tool to help you. Like calm down, Mr. Mike.
I'm so happy, Mr. Mike.
I'm just making up names.
I love, first of all, I love the fact that you said the whole thing of like you're not a slave to your system, because like
Not a
that's
slave to
another
the system.
thing.
What is that? Like happy birthday to the
Oh,
ground.
oh, that
Not
was
a part of the system.
a Lonely Island song. I happy birthday to the ground. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, I love that song. But like, because I think about systems and how like, and it's not just an ADHD thing. I think it's just a people thing where we can like end up being so dependent on a system that if we fail to use that system and still complete the task that the system was made up to help us with, we still see it as a failure. So
Right.
like, as an example, okay, I'm a little obsessive when it comes to systems because of how bad my ADHD is, because I depend so heavily on like, okay, I need to use my Notion account, which is like this organizational thing where you create kind of your own web page for yourself. And I hyper fixated on it for a while. And then after a while, I created the system for myself where like I will journal and track all of my like, I don't know, like my cycle phases. I'll like write down my feelings and stuff. And like the whole point of it is for me to stay in tune with what I'm going through, but it's also to track like things like my habits. But then here's the thing, I use it, and then after like a couple of months of using this, I started to do those habits without it. So I started to like, okay, I started to journal
Mhm.
in different ways. I started like using audio like files to journal, or would just like write down something in my notes. But then to me, when I saw my little calendar that showed all these empty spaces, I got so hung up on that. I was like, I failed. I still failed, even though it's like
Mm.
this tool was made to help me do
Get to
this
what you're
task.
actually doing.
Right. So like I just think that that's so cool that you said that. Like the system, don't like it's like don't worship the system, just get the thing done.
Yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Like it's a freaking tool. Like chill out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's obviously my own anger towards pushing against people telling me what to do. Like I don't care about freaking system.
You're such
Even
a
though please
rebel.
give me, I'm like, it's so bad because I'm like, please give me the system because it'll help me. I hate
Right.
your system.
Right. Yep.
Stop telling me what to do. It's
Yep.
supposed to help me. It's like a recipe. We keep coming back to it. The
Right.
recipe, I want it. I want to know the recipe,
Ugh, but
and I
then
will
sitting
not
down.
follow anything on it.
Yep.
But I want it.
Yep.
It's a
I
suggestion. I just need a structure so I can like not follow it is really what it is. It's just like it's a
well,
guide.
yeah, I was gonna say it could also just be a way of like you looking at it when like you feel like you're not, I don't know, like you kind of just, I don't know, kind of like a little list or something, being like,
This
oh,
is
I'm
what
going
I
back
think.
to this.
The visual that came to my brain, because this is what happens. I think in pictures and colors.
Me too.
Weird. I don't know what that is. But um it's almost like the structure you give me is is the backyard. You
Mm,
know, it's almost like it's a fenced in area. And then it gives me enough space to explore, and I'm gonna do whatever I want within it. And I'm gonna throw sand over there, and I'm gonna dig holes over there, and then I'm gonna put a tent here because I feel like it. You
mm,
can't like within the system I can explore and have fun. But then there comes a point where it's just like I've explored and then I'm like, why is this fence here? Can we do something else with this fence? And I'm gonna like challenge it and be like,
yeah.
let's change it. And that's helpful and annoying at the same
Oh, yeah. I can see how that could be frustrating. Like, I like, oh man. I sorry, I had another example. It's just live ADHD because then I think about my brain just went into like 7 different side topics with that. That's why I was like, I don't and then I get stuck and I don't remember which one I was gonna pick, or I just don't know which one to pick because I'm like, and then I forget them all. So
just because as you were describing it, the pictures in my brain are like, oh yeah, it's like a train with all these tracks, and it's just like, ooh, all these options. Oh, too many options.
yeah,
Stop.
yeah. And
Yeah.
ironically, that's interesting that because like ironically, I was also thinking about how I have a lot of systems. Like I have several systems and I'm learning now that it's okay because you also get like perfectionism attached to it too because then you're like I have to do this system, or if I mess it up then I don't want to look at it because it's like
Yeah, you forget the goal and you're just looking at the system as a
yeah.
goal.
So then like now what I do is I have like several different systems, And then I get so bored with a system so
It's
fast.
boring.
Yeah,
Nobody's excited about systems. I mean,
I
that's a lie.
am.
Some people.
But then I get hyped up when I have a different one. But the thing is, it's cool
Do you like the
because
system? Do you get excited about the system, or you get excited about creating the system?
I mean, just the fact that I have a notion where I can like write down like, oh, I get to put down like if I'm in my luteal phase or something. Like, I don't know. I just get excited about the idea of it. But when it comes to executing it for a number of like consistently for months, I get
Boring.
bored. I get bored after that. And that's why after that, I have like another system that I kind of jump to. It's been working for
Ah,
me. I feel like that's what's kept me on track. But now I'm asking you, oh, we're we're
you got
getting
a
on
minute
to
and a half.
okay. Okay, my question to you would be like, as someone who rejects a lot of systems, how is it that you like work, you run your own business. So like how do you do it do you have like a system that works for you when you reject systems?
It's bad. It's so bad. It's so bad because I respond really well to structure. I respond really well to systems. I just don't like making them. So that excitement that you have in creating systems, I don't. So I don't create systems. Um, and then that bites me in the butt for sure. So it's like I'm very type B and I need a type A to help me with that. But I have
Mm.
systems like other people created, like electronic systems that keep it as simple as possible. But I know I am kind of like bottlenecking my business because I don't have systems that um,
Um,
serve me well or that I've been introduced to, right? Um, so it is like not it is character flaw of it and it's a bit of a limit of mine
wow.
because I want to flow but I need the structure. So
Right.
girl, that's a good question because I'd be struggle busing for sure. But then I'm thinking too, like maybe my definition of struggle busing is is critical of me and what actually works because people like you had mentioned this, like I have my own business. I do things that people are like, oh man, it just reminds me of like I look at myself and I'm like, I'm so disorganized, but people externally have always mentioned, oh my gosh, you're so organized. I'm like, I am not. Like, I
Mm.
am not. And this is where I'm like, okay, these are where some of ADHD traits um, come in of like, I have piles of stuff.
Mm.
I have piles of stuff. Like my office is piles of paper, but I know
But
it's piles. There's no system. It's just like,
yeah.
but I guess I can't say there's no system there that only I understand and nobody else coming into it understand. But it's
Yeah.
like, this is generally this, like, and even when we were trying to create a system or a structure for the podcast that works for both of us, you mentioned too of like, how do you remember these things? And I was like, because I do. Like, I was like, I put my little notes here and that's enough, right?
Yeah. Well, that's your system. That's the way of that
Right.
you
Right. So that's why I mentioned like my definition of struggle busing, my definition of systems may be um not really a good representation of what has actually helped because I do have things that work, maybe not as efficiently as I would
mm.
like. Um because internally I feel like frazzled. But if the world is telling me, and I'm not saying the world is always right, but because they're not, it's like and I think that's where the functioning comes in of like I have I pay my bills, I do all these things, like I take care of what I need to.
Right.
Internally I'm like, I forgot something. Like I forgot
Yeah. It's
there's
that
something I'm
paranoia.
missing. Yeah, because I know I'm relying on just myself, my head.
Right. Which is, good to a certain extent, but it gets to
It's
a point
unreliable.
it's hard.
Unreliable. And it's so funny because I think of my piles, and I'm like, oh, I hate these papers, and then I'll like go through a dump of the papers, and I'm just like, get rid of all these things.
Yeah.
And I remember when also my brother lived with me years ago. And I was having this conversation with him, like, oh, I hate that I'm so disorganized. He's like, yeah, you have yeah, but you get things done. He's like, I don't see anybody else do what you're doing, but you
Yeah.
get things done
Yeah.
that other people don't get done. And I'm like, thank you. That's like a backhanded compliment, but I'll take it. Uh, yeah. So it's not like I don't have systems or people
Right.
systems. It's just not, I guess, the structure that we've been taught or like schools say that you should have. That's a
Yeah,
crazy
but
thing because I remember
schools are
I used to
not
have like
right.
binder checks. Like they would check
Yes.
if, and I'm like, but my brain doesn't work that way. If I am trying to put these papers in a specific way, that will look beautiful. It's exactly how you want it. But now I am tired. Like you're talking about creating systems, and I'm like, if I respond to like if I put all these things or try to organize or input this data into that website or into that page,
Hmm.
that's the work. I'm done. Like I've had conversations with my friend too of like, oh yeah, we're gonna get organized. Let's do that. Right? And it's just like creating the list, and I'm going to do this and a to-do list, and this is what I need. And once I create
Yeah.
that list, that was the work. I'm not following through with that list because I'm exhausted
Wow.
from making that list by itself. I'm
And
like,
that's, yeah.
done.
See, that's like what when it is different for different people, because the thing is, the reason why, like personally, I feel like I'm weird, because the thing is, the reason why it works for me is because that's my hyperfixation at the moment. So
Yeah.
like I will like my mind, like I'm obsessed with like things like stationery and
You
creating like online systems and like
describe or define what hyperfixation is? Like, how would you describe that?
for me personally, it's like something that I am focusing on and using way too much of my energy on. Like I will pick that thing and that will be a big part of my life. It depends. It could be like a few weeks. It could be like a month or so, or it could be a whole year obsessed with this thing. And I will like just find a bunch of different ways to do that thing. And then I don't necessarily get too bored with it. I get less bored than everything else, a fixation, which is different than like when you're hyper focusing on something, which is a different thing to me personally. But I don't know.
Well, because you live it, right? So there's a difference between hyperfixation and hyperfocus.
Mhm.
Hyperfixation is something you become kind of obsessed with, is what you're kind of
Yeah.
saying. It's not as draining. How would you this like different like what's different between that and just a regular interest? Like
You
what?
know what? I should know. I think a normal interest I can just pick up and put down. And it doesn't, I don't know, I don't think about it too much. So like, I don't know, like right now, okay, music has been a hyperfixation in the past, but now it's just an interest of mine. And so like I will be like really like I'll be like, oh, this is really cool. Like I really like this song. And I like, I don't know, I'm gonna figure it out on the piano or something. And then I'll just go and like spend like 15 minutes on it. And then I'll be like, okay, and I won't think about it. I feel like my hyperfixation is like, I'll wake up and be like, oh, I have a great idea for like, let's use music as an example. Like when I was
Mm-hmm.
obsessed, I have a great idea for a song. I have to write it down right now. So I'll have like really important tasks to do, and I will not really see them as much as important as I really should. And instead, I will place this thing on my priority list, and I'll just start being like, okay, I am going to write this song right now. And I'll like take time out of my day to do that. And then later on, I'll be like, oh, I have to like put some backtracks to this, and then
Like
like
everything else is a pause. Everything else is like black and white, and this is the only thing in color. It's like zoom, this is
yep.
the only thing, which is different than an interest. Because I think about as you're describing it, I'm like, huh, okay, some people may call that a passion.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm so passionate about this. And I'm like, I don't feel passionate, but they're like, I like a lot of things. Like, I do
Yeah.
like dance and I do like music and I enjoy it, but it's not something that I'm like zone in and like even like the mind and psychology and all these things, and people are like, oh, you're a
Right.
counselor. I'm like, no, I like it. But it's not something that's like, oh, everything, like, obsessed, or I ever felt that way. It's just like,
Right.
oh, this is really cool and intriguing. And next, like,
Yeah.
so there are points where when I've seen people in those spaces, friends or like family members, and I'm like, I would take it, and I'm like, man, I'm not interested in anything. Like, I have no passion in anything. Like, why can't I be as all in as these people, like
You just
everybody
shouldn't
else?
want to.
And then like now as an adult, I see it, I'm like, oh, that looks exhausting.
It
Like,
is.
I don't, and it's just like now I understand, like, actually that's more of a of I'm like, oh, that's not something that I guess would, I don't want to say,
Shouldn't glorify it.
right, I guess, because but at the same time I also recognize that when people are seen as different, right? Like
Right.
neurodivergent.
Yeah.
These are also the people who have brought so much amazing things to our world
Right.
because they can focus on just that one thing,
Yeah.
right? And that's where I think of where we kind of put the labels of what is norm, what is not, as very limiting, because no, actually, we're benefiting from your skill and your talents and your superpower because you're made for something different. Like,
Mm.
it's like you're made for something different, but the way we as society have created rules makes it seem like not the norm, but it is totally the norm for what you're built for.
Yeah. That's that's a beautiful perspective on it, really, because I think a lot of neurodivergent people will feel like you just feel like I can't explain. It's like you feel sometimes depends on the person. But for me personally, I'm like I feel stupid, but I know that I do things. And it's like I feel I
And
can
you do
do
dope
things.
things, and like it's amazing just because it's really what we were talking about earlier of, it's almost like the macro picture of what we were talking about micro, like when you have a system and you stay stuck in that system and you're like, oh, I failed at my system even though you met your goal personally. That's what we kind of done as a society, of like the
Mm,
society structures, school, work, all of that is a system that a group of people created that they thought was a good idea and said, we should all do this so that we could work
yeah.
together. And when anybody's not responding perfectly to that system, it's like, you're a failure. Well,
Mm,
no,
mhm.
this is a system. It's actually still a tool. School is a tool. The
Right.
schedule is a freaking tool.
Yep.
But because everybody else is saying this is the way it's supposed to be, because somebody centuries ago said this is how it's supposed to go, and not even centuries ago, sometimes it's just decades ago, okay,
Yep.
it's like, this is the way. No, that's not how we were wired.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I feel like there's so much like discouragement when you try to wire yourself the way that everybody else is wired.
It's like a fish trying to fly. Like,
Yeah.
we got flying fish and that's freaking cool, but like if the fish is like, dang it, I can't fly like the freaking
Right.
seagulls.
Oh my gosh, I literally just heard my dad was watching a he showed me this homily of this priest today, and he was just saying the exact same thing except in regards to like the talents that God has given us. So it's a little along the same lines but different. And it's like the eagle wanted to go see what was under the water, so he went and got mad that he could fly, and then he went under the water and drowned because he tried so hard to be something he wasn't. And I
Ooh.
just thought it was so beautiful, and it's so crazy because like almost exactly the analogy that you put of it. So it's like we're trying so hard to like think, I don't know, linearly, and then that's my
Be a different kind of quote unquote smart, right?
yeah. And it's
Because I
just
think of the
like
Einstein quote.
which one? I forgot.
Know it specifically, but something like if you measure, if like you measure a fish's intelligence by his ability to climb a tree or something like that.
Oh, right. You'll never know. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah,
So
that's
y'all
beautiful.
know, you got Google.
Yeah.
Anyways, but
I
yeah, we're
love
like created for different things and we kind of strip that. I think like I think of many different things because this system that we're in the US is different than other systems around the world.
right.
And I just think of like you've mentioned of like, oh, I don't know if you have ADHD. And I've always responded, I'm like, I think I grew up being able to have multiple conversations at the same time
Mm,
and shift through that. I've grown up interrupting and being okay with people interrupting because our family was so large that so much was going on that it was such a norm that this is how we adapt to our environment, right?
mm,
There's certain ways that we're wired, but certain ways that we also respond to the environment in which we're in.
right.
And you look at most of the countries outside of like Western Euro-centered countries, they're not as focused on time
Yep.
and that kind of structure of do this and then do like and productivity. Um, and people are a little bit more relaxed there. So I wonder, I wonder too of like not only is it just worrying, but how much of the symptoms that we're kind of describing as symptoms or labeling as symptoms really just exasperated by unrealistic standards for us as humans, period.
Mm.
Anyways,
Wow.
you know what I'm saying? I think and this is just me, this is Amarilis, this is not a professional opinion. This is just me hating on everything. Um I think our society a bit, our culture a bit, like focus so much on productivity that like if you're not a robot and you have any human responses, you have a disorder. Anyways,
Whoa, that's a hot take. Some people will not like that. I'm just thinking about how like then we place ourselves in our own box because like if we're a little bit out of the box, it's like, oh, you can't go rogue. You can't go out of the box. Throwback.
I'm laughing because I'm like, no, I don't have ADHD.
Oh my gosh.
I've seen, and look, TikTok is dangerous.
Yeah.
Instagram is dangerous. If you look at those, everybody like everybody has come to me in sessions. It's just like, I think I have autism because I saw
Oh,
some.
because yeah, because that's taken over all of. Oh my
I
gosh.
think I have ADHD because I saw this on TikTok. But it's like so many things that it's like, okay, somebody says something and the song pops up in your head. Do you
Yeah.
have ADHD? Um, you go one room and then go to another room and you forgot what you went to that room for. You must have ADHD. It's like
No.
some things are regular human experience and all of
Yeah.
these are spectrums, and then
Yeah.
it's again to like the point where it's just like now it's getting in the way of your everyday life,
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
may want to
The thing
be.
is also as like someone who listen, as someone who struggles with this every day, I I cannot like I can't explain this like I'm happy that we're getting some representation and I'm glad that like we're spreading the awareness, but I'm also very annoyed when it's like turned into something that people want a lot of like, and I don't think that
I
it's
want to
like
hyper focus. I want to be able to just focus on something.
not even that. It's just like
Okay.
people, it's like an aesthetic. Like it's been turned into this aesthetic that people want a lot of the time. I think it's social media is kind of to blame for that. I mean, people, but like, this social media and its algorithms and everything, just like they create this like accidental like trend. Like it turns into a trend. Like having being neurodivergent has become something that's glorified and like is a trend because we're trying to spread awareness. So it might start with like very, I don't know, like it might start see it, it might start I forgot where I was going with that. As something positive. It might start as something with good intention and then it
Yeah,
could
like someone may make a joke, like you've made jokes
right.
about things
Yeah.
that you
Like
struggle with.
yeah, like anybody has. But then after a while, like a lot of people who may even be younger and like not know, like in general, like we'll just start to want that. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like it becomes glorified in a way that's like, oh,
Where it kind
like
of waters down what you're actually trying to say.
yes, and it's a little frustrating because it's not fun. Like, and that's what I keep
It's
going back
interesting
to.
because when you're talking about it, and you could correct me if it's something else that you're trying to say, but it almost seems like bringing awareness is what you want. So people are knowledgeable, they see your struggle, they can see you.
Yeah.
And then with everybody saying that they have ADHD or is neurodivergent, who may not, who may just have neurotypical tendencies, because we all have these moments, and kind of having this glamorized version of ADHD. It's like now people see you, but you're still invisible
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
not seeing the severity and the depth and the struggle
Yeah.
of it.
Like I even think about, okay, listen, I know I'm a very privileged person with ADHD because I was able to hyper focus on school, which is not something that people can really do too often. So, like, I think about things like that. Like, it's the equivalent of me going, oh, well, I have ADHD, so like I can do, and I'm graduated college, like, why can't you? Like, it's so different for different people. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
it's like when I hear someone who is like either on the lower end of like of the ADHD where it's not as like impairing, or it affects a different part of their life, say like kind of undermined the things that other people go through. It's like I don't understand that.
I'm wondering too, because this has come up to like in my space too, of people who maybe are able to hyper focus, like you said, on school. The difference between quote unquote succeeding in high school versus college, because the structure is completely different.
Yes.
I wonder, because I just wonder about how how it helped or hindered you transition into life out after high school. Because it's not just college too. People struggle with work environments after
Yes.
high school when they've not been
Yes.
diagnosed or like seen.
I can uh when you're in high school, they kind of, everything's kind of done for you. It's not to say that it's not hard, but like it's a little easier than when you're in college, because when you're in college, you need to have like time management. A lot of things are piled up. I was a good student in high school anyway. I still struggled, like, and what I mean by that is I was always the last to finish every single test all the time, 20, like every time, nonstop, ever since I was like first grade. I was always the last one to finish. But I did so well that they just never ever called me in, and they never were like, oh, like we think you might have this. I would take forever to finish reading. I would not be able to read even when I was in high school. I wasn't able to finish the books. I had to like look up the notes online. And then but I was able
Like it
to,
was still like you would take longer, but it was still within a time frame that
right,
was appropriate, quote unquote, by what their
exact,
expectations were.
right. So then when I went to college, all of those things I had to do on my own. I had to study. I had to like, I don't know. I couldn't just like kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I had to like do so much work, that I isolated myself completely because I was like, this is the only way I can get this done. And it was harder. I would definitely say, so to answer your question, it's harder, at least from my experience. It might be different for other people, but
Yeah, because it's so crazy because like now that you kind of have more familiarity, a couple people in our family have been diagnosed, like younger generation. I think back to all of the older generation who had similar experiences, but it was just like, like they're just not focusing, or they
yeah,
don't care, or it's like they're lazy, and it's just like, well, I guess I'm
no,
lazy, but you're so smart. And it's like the intelligence was there, you can see it and you can hear it, but it wasn't being shown in this platform.
right,
So it's just really interesting because you're not the only one that struggled with college. There's so many of our aunts and uncles that struggled
right,
with college and took so long to get an associate's degree because they were
right.
like, I need but it took years and years and years and years. Um, and I'm just like, wow, like it's very we are privileged, one, like you had mentioned, just some of the experiences, knowing like, okay, you can kind of coast through high school where you know that other people cannot.
Mhm.
And privilege too, now coming into a generation where we have more talks about this and awareness, because I just think of just like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
20 years, like it's just like, oh, you just suck, like quit,
Yeah.
or you're just lazy, and then you take in all that shame and like self-identity. So it's
Right.
still very much present, but it is a different experience. So I think of like, I was literally just having this conversation with my mom and a friend too, of like the difference in intelligence between my mom and my dad.
Mhm.
Both very, very, very smart people,
Mhm.
extremely smart people, but
Yeah.
different types of smart. Of I was talking to mommy because we were talking about the training I went to, and I was like, oh, I came after you. Like I like learning. This is why I went to the training, because I like learning. And we
Mhm.
kind of talked about how I learned. Of like, she's like, do you write notes? And I'm like, yeah, I write notes. I never look back at them, but I just write notes
Yeah.
because like the process of writing
Mhm.
is helpful for me, and it's because I'm a kinesthetic learner. Like I need to move. I
Yeah.
need to do things, right? And just the process of writing is enough. Um, but um and like I could take information by seeing it and then practicing it, whereas my sister Alecha, I believe, has a lot of similar ways of learning like Papi,
Mm.
where Papi did not do well in school. Even though he understood all the concepts, he was not doing well in school.
Mm.
But it's that kind of almost like the presentation, I think.
Right.
um, yeah, just being able to break things down differently. But when he would hire like a plumber or a repairman or an electrician to come to the house to repair something that he couldn't, he always stood with them and watched them. And he would only hire them once and then never hire them again, because he had learned from just watching
Right.
and he could just do it.
Wow.
And I see Alecha doing the same thing, that
Yeah.
she can rip out the carpet and put in tiles because she saw somebody do it once and she could do it. And she
Yep.
can reupholster furniture because she saw a video once and now she can do it. So it's like a
Yeah.
whole different skill set that I don't have. I get frustrated with YouTube. I did not graduate from YouTube University because I dropped out. I can't do it. But that's a way that she can learn very easily. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's really interesting what you inherit, and also recognizing there's just different ways of learning, different ways of
Right.
different types of intelligence and different systems that work for people.
Yeah. It is that's gonna be another podcast topic. I grew up a lot with like online systems and like I mean, let me rephrase that. I didn't grow up with them. I and that's why it was really hard for me, like because I just felt like didn't exist yet. The thing that could help me didn't exist yet.
Which is why I kind of was like, when it came, like it fit, like it fit,
Right.
because it came after for me too. Like I kind of grew up with it and didn't,
Yeah.
um at the same time. And I don't respond as well to like internet learning and internet systems as you and Alicia do. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like yeah, this makes sense. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I I give up.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like frustrating to me, because I'm like, when I ask Alicia for help with certain things, or my older sister asks her for help, she's like, it's so easy, like she dismisses it like, oh, you can do it. I'm like, bro, I literally can't, which is why I need you to do this, because I have tried and I'm going to slam
Right.
this freaking device into the
Yeah.
ground. I mean, like I just won't. But what was I gonna say? I forgot. Don't laugh at my undiagnosed ADHD.
It's so funny. I'm just mad that they just never put it on paper when everyone of my therapist said I had ADHD. That's so stupid.
That part is pretty annoying.
It
You
is.
have
I never
even,
had accommodations or anything for school. But that's a different conversation for a different
and I
time.
think about that too, because I've worked with people, and kids, and even interacting with some of my family members and trying to help them kind
Right.
of learn.
Yeah.
And I used to do tutoring, but it's just like recognizing ADHD is not about not being able to pay attention.
No, it's not.
A big misconception. Like, oh, you followed along with the story or like all these things. It's not about not being paying attention. It's you just don't know what to focus on. Like you're
Yeah.
focusing on so many things.
I was gonna say sometimes it feels like you have too much like sensory input. Like you feel like everything everywhere all at once.
Ah, such a good movie.
I still haven't seen it.
Ah!
I still have to see it. Um, but yeah, like it just feels like everything is everywhere all the time. And I can see how and why a lot of the time, and that's a different, again, another conversation for a different time, but like how other like anxiety could come from
Of course.
undiagnosed ADHD.
Of course. You
Yeah.
usually don't have one.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's really interesting because you have so many things coming at you all at the same time and you don't know what to do with it. So I mean, your body just does what it thinks.
And
And
it may be helpful to think too if you've been getting help for anxiety over and over and over and over again, and
right.
it's not
Yep.
really seeing much progress.
Right.
Um,
To
you
look
may
at
want to,
something.
yeah, may want to check it. Maybe some neurodivergence.
Yeah. That's interesting. Obviously, there were a lot of things that happened in my life that contributed to my generalized anxiety, but ultimately the biggest thing was sorry, was like not having this diagnosed and not knowing how to deal with this because would just be sitting in class sometimes and everything is just close and far, close and far, close and far. And you notice everything at the same time, and the teacher's in the corner. And then you would play a little, sometimes I'd play a little game where I'd look at the teacher and then everything else would turn black around her because I was just focusing on her. And that was my game. And I'd give me anxiety. And I didn't know what it was. So the
Um,
reason why I'm saying this is that, like, you know, I know other people have gone through it too and maybe don't know. And yeah, go check it out if you
yeah,
can.
yeah. It
Definitely.
may not be that there's something off with you. It may be that you see the world differently,
Yeah.
and that's not wrong. It's just
No.
it's actually really cool and beautiful if you're given the opportunity to explore that
Right.
and thrive in it. So, what are you grateful for, Gabriela?
Okay. I'm grateful that God gave me this brain, and I'm so grateful that God gave so many different people different kinds of ways of thinking, and I'm so thankful for that because then we can make a better world together, ideally.
It would be interesting to see. Well, I guess you can't really know because maybe they were undiagnosed, but I bet you there's a lot of geniuses in history that probably had ADHD. You know, we have a lot of the
Wow.
people that we identify as geniuses now that probably had um, autism or on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's those differences that make you extraordinary. Because ordinary is just like being able to have interest and kind of shift. But it's like it those are the people who really make history and difference
Right.
and just like bring so much more to the collective. So it is a superpower. It is extraordinary. You're gonna feel uncomfortable with it because people are like, "Oh, that's wrong. We can't control you." But then you're like, "It's so crazy to like do everything I say, but be extraordinary." How? Extraordinary means not
Not
typical.
order. Yep.
Not typical.
Oh.
So
And what are
uh,
you grateful for?
I'm grateful for pineapples.
Hey, they're
They're
so
so
good.
good.
Don't you have to flip it over to make it like get riper faster?
Yeah, I want to have an experiment on that, which I won't because I will eat them. But I've always Bobby always when you see something all your life and you're like that's the way you're supposed to do it and then you don't realize maybe other people don't do that. Like cut into mangoes and avocados. I had an experience with a friend where he's like, I don't know how to cut into a mango. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm kind of walking him through it. He's like, you know how you cut into an avocado and you kind of go this way? Well, you kind of do that, but And I'm using an avocado as a reference to help him cut into a mango.
Oh no.
He's never cut into an avocado. He's just like, uh-huh, okay, cool. And then I see what he's doing. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not how you cut an avocado. It's like, I've never cut into an avocado.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
These are not typical things.
You're helping me learn too,
Not
because
everybody comes from. I just think people. What?
oh, did we pause do the thing?
Yeah. What did you say?
Oh, I just said like I don't remember. I continue, please.
Anyways,
continue.
yes. Anyways, pineapples. Put them upside down. That's
Put 'em
it.
upside down.
The juice, the sweetness starts at the base, from what I was told growing up, and then all of the sweetness then carries into the rest of the pineapple. If you put it down and have the spiky parts up, you're gonna have some bland pineapple, bro.
Wow, I didn't. Oh, I can't
Like
wait
the
to
sugar
try that.
starts at the base. It starts ripening at the base. So you put it upside down, and then it sweetens the rest of your delicious pineapple.
Amazing.
And how do you cut into a pineapple? Don't overthink it. You just chop the top off, and you
I
pull it up,
mean,
eat it up, bro. Who cares?
I've seen some people recently cut pineapples really weird, where they're like le da un masaje, like you
TikTok.
massage the
That's
pineapple.
freaking TikTok. I have not tried that, but I am curious if it's actual
I don't know if I
actual
can.
truth or it's just a lie.
It feels fake to me.
Yeah, rolling the freaking pineapple, hitting it, and then what the heck? Did you know? Here the hi ADHD on full blast, but I think it's just how I was raised. Did you know
Yes.
that pineapple is a berry?
I want to say no. I want to say that it's just not. Even though you just told me it was. I want to say no, it's not.
You can live in whatever world you like, Gabriela.
No, I can't. I'm living here and this world says that a pineapple is a berry.
Because it's a bunch of clusters.
So it's just a giant rat. Okay, follow us on Instagram at I am here pod. Connect with us through Gmail, iamherepod@gmail.com. Send us your stories and new things you've learned, or things you want to know, or just any episode suggestions.
Or if you've diagnosed me with ADHD.
Yeah, let us know if you diagnose the counselor with ADHD. This podcast is edited by us and produced by us, and our theme song is by Adrian Cuento. We are so happy you're here.
And we are here with you.
Another rainy day, looking for a place to stay. I could find the words to say with the familiar face and a comfy pillowcase. I see the steam from the kitchen. My world's brighter when you visit. No more weight on my shoulders. Our hearts warming up, though outside it gets colder. I consider it a privilege just to hear you and hold you. Thank you for the blessings, the tears and the laughs and the love and the lessons. This one goes out to my brethren. Let me listen for a second. The connections are close, here to anchor your boat. Come and send it your quote when you're looking for more. Lay your back on the shore, though there's anger and war. You'll find love through this door. You'll find love through this door. I am wise, I am strong. I am loved, I am here. I am wise, I am strong. I am loved, I am here. I am loved, I am here.